Welcome to Your Spiritual Besties podcast. I'm Lauren Ledoux.
And I'm Rashida McCoy. We're here to laugh, cry, learn, and connect with you.
We discuss anything and everything from our everyday lives to the magical, mystical, and woo-woo.
So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea,
and set an intention to receive, because you deserve it, bestie.
Hello. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Rashida.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Jinx, you owe me a matcha.
I will gladly give you a matcha.
Oh, you know what sounds so good, and I don't have any at home, is like a golden milk latte, but there's a local cafe that actually closed, and they make it with like oat milk and honey, and it's so good, like turmeric and oat milk and honey. That's what I want right now.
That sounds amazing.
Somebody bring me one.
When we went to our conference in November, they had a turmeric latte, I think it was, and I never had that before. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this thing a try. Oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. So I'm feeling that. I'm definitely feeling that.
It's like rainy here today. I want something like spicy and warm and that won't amp me up like coffee, because coffee is not doing it for me lately. I still like need a cup a day, and I mean need like for real. But it's like amping me up, so I've got to switch. I did like a poll on my Instagram stories, and not a poll, but I just was like, is anybody else like not taking well to coffee anymore? And so many people replied to me and gave a lot of suggestions. So I've been dabbling here and there with other things, but
what's your one thing that you've like kind of turned to?
Well, I do like a matcha latte, and that's something I had in the house for a long time. A lot of people recommended like roasted dandelion tea.
Ooh.
And it's okay. I need to give it a chance. I also have like 2 different CBDs, and one of them is one for the morning, so it's supposed to like help bring in your energy, and the other one's for the evening to help bring it down. So I don't know. I'm just gonna try all of the things.
Try all the things now.
Yeah.
I feel you.
But I don't think coffee is something I can just like quit cold turkey.
No, I did yesterday, and yesterday, one day, right? One day. But no, actually over the weekend too, Lauren. I haven't had coffee since the weekend. My headaches. Oh my gosh, the headaches. And I know it's like the caffeine, right? I know that's what it is. So I'm drinking the teas, a little bit of tea with caffeine in it too to kind of help me, but I might have to go back to my coffee. 1 cup a day.
I mean, you have 2 small children, one who is under 1 year old. I think we all have to do what we need to do for our health, of course, but I don't know. Coffee
Sometimes
man.
it's okay. Yeah. Sometimes I just need to do the coffee. And it's okay. It's okay. I was doing like this big, not a big, but like this cleanse or whatever. So I was like, oh, I'll drop this, I'll drop that. No soda, no this. And I don't drink soda often, but sometimes I just get a craving for like ginger ale. I don't know what it is about ginger ale. I don't know why I like it, but sometimes I just want to feel like the sting of the bubbles on my tongue. And as it goes down my throat, I know that sounds very weird, but I'll get a ginger ale from time to time. And I was like, nope, not that either. So none of the things, but yeah, I think I might have to go back to a cup.
Do you like soda water?
No, okay, no, because it tricks me. I love drinking water, but and maybe I just haven't found the right one.
Yeah,
right?
you could get like a ginger lemon. That would be really good.
Okay, and that's what it is. All the ones that I like see here in my local town, we don't have the really good ones, so it's just lacking in the flavor, and I'm just like,
yeah. Or you can add your own flavors, but like my favorite is Spindrift. I like a Topo Chico too, but if I want something with flavor, Spindrift, they're not sponsoring us, by the way. They use like real juice in theirs, so it just tastes a lot better than the ones that have like quote unquote natural flavoring.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and Gemma loves them too. She calls it tickle water.
Oh, I love that.
She's like,
I will check that out.
yeah, it's really good. I think they have a ginger one if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, it's not going to have. Oh, do you like ginger kombucha?
Hmm.
Because that would be a good alternative too.
For the bubbles, yeah.
And for the ginger taste, although it's gonna have that vinegar taste too, but I like kombucha a lot. We don't really drink soda. It's not something we keep in the house. So soda water, kombucha are our faves. I feel
Yeah,
like
I have to go back to the kombucha for sure. I don't know why I haven't. Yeah, it was weird. I had my grandmother stay with me, and she's a Diet Pepsi person.
mm.
And I'm talking like we have to have a bunch of Diet Pepsi. And I'm just like, drink a Diet Pepsi, but drink some water too. You know, she's always like, I don't like the taste of water. I'm like, dude, it's water. What do you mean?
It
I
doesn't
don't
really
understand.
taste like anything. Well, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And here it doesn't. We have well water here and it tastes amazing to me. Like amazingly nothing. Like it's just
Yeah.
refreshing. But, like the itch to like just even have the bubbles, I was like, okay, nope, nope, we cannot have this in the house. So I told Daniel, like, you have to put these up because she'll not be here for months at a time sometimes, and we just have it sitting here. And I'm like, no, no, I don't want to give in. I don't even like it, but just the thought of like the bubbles on my tongue is something about it. So yes, I will be getting kombucha again, and making sure I do not have the urge for the soda. That is actually the one thing that I'm like, I don't want. But I
Yeah.
will get, my coffee back.
It's good for the kids too. Like, it has probiotics and stuff. But Gemma, like, she loves kombucha. If we have it, she says Bucci and asks for it.
Gee, I love
I
that.
mean, it's not like she like eats a salad for every meal or like loves everything I give her. I don't want to sound like, oh, she just like drinks kombucha and seltzer and, you know, only water and we only eat like perfect food. It's not like that, but I think that since they're just stuff that we have that she likes it. Like every morning I have a like a greens powder with
Mhm.
vitamins and stuff and she's like green juice and she has to drink it too and it's
Oh,
fun.
that's good though. What and
Yeah.
this
Mm,
age two is really good because they're a little bit more open. Macy
yeah.
now is like kind of closed.
Hmm.
But when I do my shakes sometime in the morning, I do like put the green powder in and she wants it and she sucks it up, especially if it's like a fruit, smoothie.
Hmm.
The chocolate one, she loves that too. But Miles, he's all about all the things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep this going. Like Macy used to drink tea. Like we didn't do juice for a long time. It was like tea, herbal teas, and she loved it. It was like her alternative to water, but we were very big on water, and she still even asks for water now. So I'm like, as long as that is still established, I feel like
Yeah.
I've won. At 4, you're asking for the water. I'm good.
I know I gave her a sip of orange juice recently, and like we don't usually have juice in the house. I've known kids who like just want juice all the time.
Hmm.
It's bad for their teeth, and lots of sugar. And she loved it so much. She's like, more, more. I gave her like a tablespoon of juice with water, and she seemed satisfied. But I'm like, okay, probably it's just easier not to have
In
this
the
in the
house,
house.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and no offense to anyone who likes juice out there or gives their kids juice. Um, just like trying to not expose that any earlier than we need to.
No, absolutely. And for Macy too, she's very, 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 very picky about what she eats. So I'm just like,
Mm.
I don't want to add more sugar on top of your already limited like diet. And
Yeah.
she'll try things. She will try things, and I'm grateful that she will try. But I mean, y'all would have to see like this whole drama thing. Like we'll put like one green bean in the mouth, and then it's like this whole gagging affair of like, and I'm like, it's a one green bean kid. Like is it really that serious?
She's
But
like,
to
it's
her,
killing me. It's
in
killing
her
me.
little world, it's that's. I mean, she puts it in her mouth, she tastes it, she'll say, "That tastes kind of different," and then I'm like, "All right, we tried. At least we try. We don't eat meat. She's not a meat eater, And not even like you, Lauren, like she won't even eat fish or shrimp or anything like that. She's just flesh of any kind, not happening.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, well, peanut butter and jelly it is. So we get the really good peanut butter, the really good jelly, and we do spaghetti, veggie noodles. So whatever,
Yeah,
whatever works.
you just gotta get your kids fed
I mean,
in the end.
I felt really bad in the beginning, and I'm like, what am I not doing? Because she's really tiny too. She's
Hmm.
only 35 pounds right now. And I'm like, what am I not doing? And like sometimes when we look in like at social media and all the things, like the look makes it, I'm trying not to get emotional about it, but you don't feel super supported sometimes as a mom
Hmm.
raising a child who maybe not eat everything. And these moms that put all this out on social media, oh, this is what we do. We always do this, but that's not the case for everybody. And I know I felt so bad sometimes because I was like, what am I doing wrong with Macy? Like, why is she just not eating the foods? So now I'm over it, right? I get a little emotional thinking about the old me, like really crying about like her daughter's weight. But it doesn't work for everybody. And if all I can get her is, spaghetti and peanut butter and jelly, and she'll do fruits, right? And oh, she does do Velveeta or macaroni and cheese. It can't be Kraft. It has to be Velveeta because she's that picky, which is fine. Then that's what I can do, and I'm okay with that. So,
Dude, thanks for sharing that. And this is something I've noticed. So there are so many different kinds of mom groups on social media. And, we join them because we need tips for something or support. And I was looking this weekend and like it really was apparent to me just like how many of the posts I was seeing were like about being guilty, like feeling guilty about like not being enough for your kids. And I'm seeing are these moms who are like trying so hard. Like they're
mhm,
trying so hard that they found a group on Facebook that they want to like try to crowdsource for answers. Um, and I don't know. My guess is like, okay, apart from like passing trauma onto kids or like not feeding them or, if you're doing your best, like, can we just let go of everything else? Like, is it possible? And it's so hard to do through the lens of social media when we are seeing like, yeah, the moms who are like, I'm in like a baby-led weaning group, even though just kind of out of the baby
mhm,
phase, where they like show like, oh, this was like just an easy meal. We didn't have a lot of time, and it's like way more elaborate than anything I ever put together. And I'm like, you know, why are you like not why are you posting this, but like I feel guilty. Like you're trying your best, you're feeding your kid, your kid's probably happy. Um, can we like just can we let it go?
let it go.
This is like a whole,
It's so
a whole
hard.
other conversation, but like man, the guilt. And I definitely feel guilt too. Like, am I paying enough attention? Am I doing this or that? But yeah, it just really hit me like how many people are constantly dealing with that and then like looking for support or approval. Um, Man, it's just so much.
It is so much. And I think like the biggest thing too, and when I was able to like let go of that guilt,
Mhm.
and sometimes I still, I think it'll always like show up just like with anything that we have to kind of work through, but tapping into like what I think, like my intuition around like raising my child has allowed me to become a little bit more freer and let go of a lot of that guilt.
Mm,
Because my guilt came from me seeing, and we all know about social media, like we don't see the whole picture. We know
no.
that, right? We know that. But sometimes, like me seeing, like, and I was the same thing, Lauren, like, even before we met, when I first had Macy, like, I was seeking community. I was seeking all of these things, all these connections. And I would get some of that, but mostly I would get like this feeling of guilt that would come up because I would see all these people, other moms doing all these things, and it made it look so easy. Like, even the whole like sleeping, letting Macy sleep,
Mm.
through the night or whatever. I just felt so bad about it, like all the time. And now I'm just like, you know what? Is she hurt? Is she alive? Will she be okay? Am I still showing her all the love that I can give her? Then everything else is fine. And it doesn't have to look like anybody else. Like, and we all know every child is different. And that's another thing. There is no manual for raising a child. Like there are tips and tricks that people use, but your child just might not follow in that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they're all individuals. So this is a topic, let us know if you want to hear more about it because I think like intuitive parenting is kind of what Rashida and I have both landed on after trying different methods and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something like we can definitely talk more about. But that is not the topic for today. I feel like we could have
No.
just gone on and like not recorded what we're going to record.
But no, we're very passionate about what we have to talk about today, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yes. So you've probably heard us now give at least one chakra reading and talk about them a lot. That's Chakra. You might hear people say chakras. We say chakras. It's
Chakras.
chakras. It's the Sanskrit pronunciation. And we wanted to really dive into the topic of chakras today, talk about like what they actually are and maybe how to actually like apply the knowledge to your life. And I'll also talk about a special offering that has just come out that I've launched. So, shall we dive in?
Let's go.
Okay. I thought first I could talk a little about like where this concept even comes from. It feels like very new age, but it's actually ancient.
Mm-hmm.
So, chakras are defined as whirling vortexes of energy. I'll get into the anatomy a little bit more, I think, after the history, but they've been mentioned in many different uh, yogic texts for several thousand years. There are many different systems, but essentially they were discovered or felt through people like meditating and like kind of downloading the information. And people have downloaded like different systems, different chakra systems over the ages. So what we like know now of the chakras is a little bit different. Uh, they're also really meant to be like points of meditation, more so than anything that like you're healing or prescribing something for. So the way that we've kind of utilized them has changed too in recent years. So again, they appear in different yogic texts. And then basically there was a badly translated text, like I forget what text it was, from Sanskrit to English sometime in the early 20th century. And that became like the West knowledge of chakras.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. Just, I guess, par for the course of, of like this colonized version of spirituality that many of us know. Um, and then informed more by the East, and then sort of this different, I don't want to say different, but this system that was brought over here has been expanded upon and informed by more like spiritualist, occultist type practitioners. So yes, they're yogic in origin, Indian in origin, and they're different chakras too, in different like systems too, not just yogic. Um, but yeah, kind of like the popularized version is a little bit different now. I don't say this to discount it. I actually use this seven chakra system that we're going to talk about and like the colors and all of the different things because I feel like uh, every single person on this earth is capable of like meditation and connecting with source. So anything that comes through that's new to me is just as valid as something that's ancient. And the ancient
Mm.
system is has many iterations. So I don't think that this is invalid. In fact, I think the more people that like meditate on this system and who utilize it, the more like real it becomes in a way.
It
Like we
gives it power.
yes.
Yes. Mm.
Yes. But I say this just to kind of let people know where it comes from and to also know that this is not the only way. Um, but it is a way, and it's a way that, yeah, I've used for a long time. Um, so what it is, where do I start? So in the yogic body, in the energy body, I'll say there are nadis, Nadis, which are like channels of energy through the body. And there are many, many, many. You can think of that it as like, you might think of like qi, in traditional Chinese
Hmm.
medicine. Um, but it's prana in yoga, which is life force energy, which flows through these different channels in the body. And everywhere they cross creates a whirling vortex of energy, which is a chakra, like a spinning wheel. And
Mm.
so there would be like thousands of them in a human body. But when we're talking about the seven chakra system, we're talking about the seven main chakras that align with like the spine.
Mm.
Going deeper into that, there is a like main energy channel or main nadi called Sushumna. And you can think of it going from like the pelvic floor up through the center of the body, through the crown of the head. To the right of that is the masculine channel called Pingala. It holds like fiery, penetrating masculine energy. To the left of that is the feminine channel called Ida, and it holds feminine, receptive, lunar, cool energy. And they kind of wind around Sushumna, the main channel, and everywhere they cross forms a major chakra. So,
Mm. Okay.
yeah, so that's where we get that system. Also, like in Hatha Yoga and like Kundalini would be kind of the modern version of that. There's like this coiled feminine energy at the base of the spine, and it's depicted as like a snake. And that's like this wild Shakti feminine energy. And then the Shiva energy or the masculine energy is kind of at the crown of the head. And you're using different breath work and meditation practices and different bandhas, which are like different ways to use your muscles to lock in the energy to
Mm.
bring the feminine up to the masculine. And that's called Kundalini rising. So that's a little bit different than like Ida and Pingala. Um, but do know like through these systems, really what we're doing is balancing masculine and feminine energy in the body or in the energy body. And feminine doesn't necessarily mean woman, masculine doesn't necessarily mean man. In this system, we all carry both of these energies, but they can
Mm.
really like be off balance, especially in a culture that is primarily more masculine, linear, penetrating, hot. Um, so that's kind of the anatomy of the chakras. And then each chakra itself is kind of a zone or even a portal of information. And it goes from the root, which is like the most animal part of the self, to the crown, which is the most spiritual side of the self, and then everything in between.
Mm.
So each one holds information about our physical bodies, about our emotions, about our psychology, um, about like our relationship with each other and the world, our relationship with nature too. So it's a very cool system because when you look at all seven, it really encompasses pretty much everything that makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And we kind of talk about them being like in balance or out of balance or open or closed. Or if you've heard Rashida and I read them, like we see all kinds of crazy stuff that gives us information about them. Um, but essentially we're wanting to bring like the masculine and feminine energies into balance and bring them all into like this space of wholeness. And I forgot what I was just gonna say. I was going off about the chakras. Um,
Yeah,
but
you were
yeah,
talking about the masculine and feminine and
yeah. So we're bringing like typically we're meditating on them and bringing them into balance. So that's what they are. Oh, what I was going to say is that and this is something I tell my students, like you don't actually have to fully believe in them to work with them. Um, because they're really just an organized way to look at the self. So we don't see the chakras with our eyes. They're not quote unquote scientifically proven, but that doesn't mean that they aren't a valuable tool for self-evaluation and self-realization ultimately. Do I believe in them? Yeah. I think if I didn't, it would be hard to do the work that I do. Um, but yeah, that's kind of an overview of what the heck they even are. Um, Rashida, I'd love to know, like, when were you introduced to the chakra system, and what did you think of it at first?
So in every day, I think like I would see like cute things online, like with the colors.
Mm,
And so I like looked into that. Like I think I want to say this is like 3, 4 years ago, maybe. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. We have these lights within us, essentially is what I got. And it wasn't until we went through DCI that I really like dove into like the chakra system. And initially I was like, okay, cool. Like this has expanded my knowledge. Okay, the root all the way up to the crown. This makes sense, like from a logical standpoint. But I'll say like the game changer was like, and I wouldn't say that I did or did not believe when I started learning about them. I was like, okay, this is it just is. I think when I started to really dive in, really meditate on even just like with the colors, is when I really got this sense of like belief. Like these are living energy centers. Even being able to tap into it in my, with myself. And also too, like in different areas of my life when I was like, oh, this feels a little off or out of whack, I would like look into see what chakra it associated with. And I was like, oh, this makes so much sense, right? So it kind of like created like that structure that you were talking about. And then, when we dove into our intuitive work, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. But I think I told you, even like after we graduated, I was like, I'm really like feeling a call to like the chakras. I don't know what it is, but there's something about them that's really calling to me. And so, yeah, I'd say a few years ago is when I really like, or I should say a year or so ago is when I really like dove in and realized that they, to me, are real. And
mhm.
I have a belief behind them and what they can do and how they can help us in our everyday lives. And not only just balancing ourselves, but, bringing things through from above. So we'll get into that later.
Very cool. Yeah, for me, my story with them is kind of interesting because, you know, gosh, this is probably back in like 2008 or 9. I didn't know about them. I maybe had like heard them in popular culture or something like that. I don't know. Probably when someone's like making fun of a hippie on a TV show or movie or something like
Right.
that. Um, but yeah, not really any knowledge. And I would sit and meditate, and I didn't really know how to meditate either. Had gone to like a Kundalini yoga center a few times when I lived in Chicago in the early 2000s and learned a little bit of meditation there, but I just kind of sat and let it be whatever it was. And I would start imagining like basically that I was a prism. So like light coming through the top of me, and then I was like shining out rainbow colors. And it just
Hmm.
felt really good. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but uh, it felt like I don't know how to explain it exactly, but in a very spiritual sense, like I was experiencing what my purpose was in a way,
Mm,
and that like I was taking in light from source, I guess, and then like expressing it in all these different ways through me. And then I can't even remember like where I found it because this is back before everything was on social media, but I found like a local Reiki training, and I
mm.
was just in such like a kind of a bad mental and physical space. And I didn't even really know what Reiki was, but it sounded very cool. And I didn't really want to do it to like become a healer or anything like that because I didn't even really know what. an energy healer was. Not that much. I'd met like one before. And I did the training, and like the first day, the teacher revealed the chakra system, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. And it's funny, before that I was like doing all these drawings of like rainbows and like lotus flowers and stuff like that. I actually gave the teacher one because she had given me a partial scholarship. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to attend. And she was like, "Oh, this looks like the chakra system." And I was like, "What? What is that?"
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I didn't even like really put this together until recently, as I've been like preparing for this course I'm doing. Um, so I learned like how to place my hands on the chakra centers and feel them, and like pour white light energy into them, which is what you're doing through Reiki. But I'd also like get intuitive hits. And this is back in 2011 when I did this training. Um, I didn't like do that as a career. I'd practice on friends or whatever. In 2013, I did my first 200-hour yoga teacher training program, and that's where like I dove in really deep with the chakras and learning more about them. Um, and so I started working with them. Now it's been like 10 years, but I use them a lot through yoga classes. So really like embodying the energy of each one in different ways. Um, I've used them as like a structure for retreats. Like each day we focus on a different chakra. Um, I've taught them a lot over the last 10 years, and I use them really in my everyday life. I hadn't heard of the system that we learned in DCI. I mean, the chakra system, of course, but the way that we
Mm.
use them in DCI, which we'll talk about later, in Dharma Coaching Institute. And then diving into this intuitive work this year, with Nikki Novo, like being able to learn how to read others' energy. Because before, especially in my coaching, I was intuitively drawn to like helping people to kind of go into their own and like figure out what's going on and like really talk to them, which I still like to do. But like really being able to like pull up somebody's energy and see them is such a game changer. Like, wow,
Yeah.
what a cool thing to be able to do. So that's kind of the evolution of my relationship with the system. And my book comes out later this year, and it's written in a very feminine sense, and that like my story is not linear in it, but it's held within the chakra system. So I love the structure of it because it really does cover everything. And we'll go into like what each chakra is and what it entails, but you'll see that it really like encompasses every part of like this
Hmm.
human experience on Earth. Okay, so let's dive into these 7 chakras and talk a little bit about each one. So we'll start from the bottom, I think. And this is the root chakra, also called Muladhara, and it's at the base of the spine, pelvis. It also governs like the legs and the feet. And this is all about truly your roots. It's about your most like human, even animalistic self. What are some of the qualities that this holds?
When I think of the root chakra, like it's really like what is making me feel safe and secure. And for that, it's my home life, one, my actual physical, like, am I safe in where I am? And then also to like my finances, right? Like, are my finances in order? Because I feel like if you don't have that security of finances, like you're always on this like unsure footing of like what you can do, and you can't really be fully present because that's like always in the back of your mind. And then also too, like when I think about the root in a literal sense, like it's what holds, when we think of a tree, like it's what holds it to the earth. It's what grounds it. The physical roots is how this, like a tree gets nourishment, right? It's how it is able to stand tall and stand strong and firm. And so if this element, this root chakra isn't necessarily in balance or balanced or open, however you want to look at it, like you will find yourself like maybe not feeling safe, like maybe things come up with your ancestors or your parents, even, even your parents here, that's part of your roots, right? So it encompasses so much. And just even for me working with it, I've found this to be true.
Yeah, it really is like all of your basic needs being met, your ancestry, your inner child, even.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple things about it. So each chakra is associated with an element, and this one is associated with the earth element. I think this is the easiest way to kind of
Relate it.
know what each chakra is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you think of earth, which is like dirt and rocks. So it's dense, it's where the roots grow, it's like the fertile soil that holds the rest of us.
Yeah.
Um, and if it's out of balance, we might be kind of hoardy. We might be like, we need to cling on to all the resources because that's what helps us feel safe. Or maybe we just are always in fear, always in scarcity, always in lack. So like for me, for instance, like the money part, I mean, this chakra honestly has been a mess for me. Not now, but like through the years, it's been a lot to work through. It's the dentist one. It's usually the hardest one for people to work through, but to like have a good, balanced, healthy relationship with money, to have a good, balanced, healthy relationship with food, for instance, with my physical body, like that has all been things that I have to work toward. And my, I guess I don't want to say theory, like because I think it's true. I think humanity's root chakra is just so off base, and you can see that in our relationship with Mother Earth herself.
Mhm.
So as individuals, it can be really hard to hold that energy because that is not what we're surrounded by. How does that land for you?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense and very resonant in what you're talking about. And when you like even said that, our relationship as humanity is just not really balanced with our root, like it got me to realizing that, we are not super connected anymore. Not a lot of us are, but not enough, I feel like, because we even have these debates or talks about how the world's not really changing, right? Because
Hmm.
there's no such thing as anyway, not going to get on that tangent. But we are covering ourselves all the time when we go out. Just even our feet. I can always tell a difference when I go outside in bare feet, and like just how I feel and like just being grounded. And then that kind of like spreads in other areas of my life, really. But when we think about us as a whole human race, like we're in concrete jungles. We are always walking in shoes. We are always trying to be sanitary and covered, and we just do not have that connection anymore. And some of us are trying to find time to connect, hugging our trees and finding our spots in nature and all the things. But more of us need to in order to like really see a big shift, I think, Lauren, in this root chakra,
Yeah,
as a
for
whole.
sure. Absolutely. And these symbiotic relationships with nature have been built into daily lives of like indigenous people
Mm.
for thousands of years. And if we trace back our own cultures far enough, it was built into that too. But in the name of colonialism, in the name of quote unquote progress, in the name of religion, even, um, especially like let's just say it, white people have just totally disconnected all of us from this like intrinsic relationship, again, in the name of quote unquote progress. Um, so of course it's going to be difficult to like re-find that because it's just not a part of most of our cultures. It's not hasn't been built into our daily lives. So, as parents now, we're talking about being intuitive and intentional. Like this is something that we can do. Like it just feels right. Like,
Hmm.
do our kids behave? I'll say behave, quote unquote, but like, do they seem happier and healthier and more grounded when they've spent lots of time outside? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, and that is like the total like what is it I'm trying to say? I can't even think of the word right now, but yes, like the correlation between like outside and being grounded and our kids and their behavior, like that is really the example. You are absolutely correct. Like Maciana can spend hours and hours outside, and I see less like tantrums and less like more, not that she's not caring and not that she's not more loving, but like it's just more like there's just so much more as opposed to when it's like a rainy day and we're inside and like all the things. So I think you definitely hit something there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's our connection to nature, it's connection to our animal selves, our ancestors, our inner child, finances, food, body, like all this all this heavy stuff really. So most of us have a lot of work to do here, and that's just normal. Its color is red, and each one has an element associated with it, and each element has a sacred sound. So we can meditate on each chakra, like visualize the color, and we can also chant its sound. And this one is, I just forgot. I teach this like all the time. It's not Vam is the sacral. Um,
Why did I even think that like that always came to my head and I was like, no, that's not it. Ram, no, that's higher
Ram
up.
is
Lam, no,
Lam. It is
that's
Lam. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Where are our heads today? So its sacred sound is Lam, Lam. So usually when I'm working with students, we will embody this chakra in different ways, but chanting with it is one of them. And really like if we're talking about yoga, doing a lot of postures that really ground the feet, that like strengthen the legs, and like doing a lot of visualizing of our connection with the earth
Mm.
is how we might embody this one. So let's move on up to the next one, which is right below the navel. And it also encompasses like the lumbar spine. And the pelvis is the sacral chakra or swadhisthana, and it's orange. It's associated with the water element. This one is very like flowy and feminine. It's emotional, it's sensual, it's creative. What comes to mind for you when you think of the sacral?
Yeah, initially it was the sexuality aspect, the sensuality aspect. But more and more it's really like tapping into like the creative aspect of myself really and truly is what's coming to me. And also too like it's this when we think of like the chakra system, like the roots really about us and being grounded to Mother Earth and grounded in ourselves. When we come up into the sacral, it's really like starting to have awareness for like something other than ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's really what comes up for me when we talk about the sacral.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it's out of balance, it might look like just being really out of touch with like your senses, maybe like an inability to truly receive, lack of sensuality, lack of creativity,
Mm,
maybe a feeling of like rigidity. Or maybe it's like out of control, like I'm only going to flow and I'm not going to be contained by anything. That would be like the overly feminine energy there. Or like feeling the need to create every single thing instead of being discerning. Um, so there are different ways. Oh, maybe like, you know, we want to like experience and feel our emotions and let them flow through, but being out of balance might be like more being ruled by the emotions and like really clinging to them, as well as like
mm,
not feeling them or like suppressing them. So this one is dense too. Um, I'd say for everyone, I'd say especially though for women and feminines, um, sensitive because it's a very, very, very powerful space that is extremely devalued in our culture, um, and like misunderstood. It's where we hold our cycles. And we've talked about like living in a more like linear patriarchal world where like, there's a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 work week, where everyone is expected to like get up and perform the same way every day. For people with like male hormones, that works okay because their hormonal system works like on a 24-hour cycle. For others, we're different every single day.
Every single day. Our body is doing something different every single day.
hmm Yeah, I had this kind of phrase pop up for me the other day where, like, for a long time, I really thought I was a very inconsistent person, but I realized that's not the truth. I'm consistently cyclical,
Mm, hmm.
and if I count on that, then I can be counted on, right? But it's a beautiful thing to honor the cycles of nature. We also think of the sacral like being connected to the phases of the moon.
Yes.
Um, and really honoring, yeah, the cycles of the seasons, for instance, the cycles of our own lives. Um, so yeah, also one I think that our culture is pretty out of touch with, and you can even see it in our relationship with the waters, like polluting the waters, allowing corporations to own waters, um, trashing our oceans, and we as individuals are microcosms of this macrocosm. So how can we tend to our inner waters more beautifully, more intentionally, more sacredly? And then how can we do that outside of ourselves as well? There are so many different practices that can help like shore up and strengthen this chakra. But really anything that allows you to flow, to feel joy and pleasure, and even something as simple as like sending good intentions into your glass of water before drinking it can be a way to
Mm,
connect. Its color is orange,
orange. Yep. My
and
favorite color.
yeah. And its sound is VAM, VAM. Is there anything else you want to add or anything that you like consistently see when you look at this chakra?
Do you mean me personally or when I've like looked for others?
Both.
No, I don't really think there's anything I want to add. It's just a very powerful um, chakra. I also very liberating once you can find that like balance in a way. But I also know because it's so close to the root, obviously, like they kind of tie hand in hand too. Does
Mm,
that make sense? Like
yeah,
really working on both of them. But
for
mm-mm,
sure. I'll say like the first three tend to be the most like dense. They just hold a lot of our, yeah, super
like
human,
who we
human
are.
stuff.
Yeah.
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 And speaking of who we are, the next one, solar plexus, or Manipura. Manipura, it's just above the navel, and it's really where we hold like that sense of identity. And it's yellow. I think like here comes the sun. Gemma liked that. And yeah, it's associated with fire. And it's really where we hold like this confidence, drive, self-esteem, really the relationship with self. What comes up for you with the solar plexus?
I know you really just said it. The biggest thing for me is like that confidence piece, that inner fire, that our ability to like really shine out into the world.
Mhm.
I don't always see this space as very bright. Some people it's very bright, like, and that's amazing. But when I've tapped in a lot, like this space isn't always bright, and I know that that has, like we said before, has a lot to do with the other two below it. But this is such a powerful area, and really like tapping into like your solar plexus, really finding that fire within allows you to like show up into the world in a different way. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, when I think of this one too, I think of the word ego. So we all need
Mm,
our ego to keep us
yes.
safe and alive. But really, I think of like overinflated and underinflated egos, which are still ego. But someone who is like overconfident to the point where they are unable to like hear truth from other people, receive other opinions, where they're just like, nope, my way is the only way, and my way is always best. Um, that's definitely like a very overinflamed solar plexus chakra.
Yes.
Um, Also, that's like overinflamed pitta too, if we're putting it into Ayurvedic
Mm-hmm.
terms. They both are the fire. Uh, they might have like overactive digestion. That can come with it too. What I see more in the people I work with is this feeling that I totally can identify with of not enoughness.
Mm.
I'm not enough. Ugh.
And this, this too, when you're um out of balance on the other hand too, like you feel burnt out. Like we do have those people
Mm,
who are um, you know, overconfident, I guess you could say.
mm.
But, you have those people who just have just put so much of their fire and they just don't have any more to give. And so this comes as an imbalance and you're just like at this crossroads, right? Like you just don't know what to do. So,
Yeah, this sounds like me, not the overconfidence, but just like getting really into drive and into the masculine and like really letting the fire burn because it's a state that can feel really good for me
hmm
and can feel very flowy. Um, but when I don't listen to my body needing a rest, that's when like it burns out. So we want to think of it as like a pilot light that's always lit, not too much, not too little, but
mm,
just right. And I think for most of us, we can really use more. Even for the people with like the overinflated sense of ego, they're still mistaking their ego for who they are.
mm.
So really like, and this goes more into the upper chakras, but like once we like truly know who we are in the self-realization um, sense, then the ego goes into a really healthy place. So we'll get more into that later. But again, associated with fire, the sound is rum, R-A-M. It's like this very
Um,
strong sound.
mm.
And I like to tap into it with like breath of fire is a really great way that
I
um
always have to have a tissue when I do that.
yeah, especially during certain seasons. Like for yoga, I love sun salutations. It might mean like going out for a run. It might mean like writing your to-do list and checking it off. Like there are different ways to embody this chakra. Maybe it's saying like positive affirmations about yourself and like really allowing yourself to shine. Um, that's really everything that's like held in that particular space.
I have a question for you because you
Yeah.
shared a lot of cool practices to kind of balance that. But what if you're too much, like it's over
Yeah, I'd say like they need
active?
some balance then. So like this is it sounds silly maybe, but like when I've been overheated, like time and because like that'll show up as anger a lot of times.
Mm,
Time and water, like you need to
mm.
cool off. You need to back up. No, but really like anything cooling. So that might mean taking conscious time for rest. It's really a lot of like diving into the sacral, actually, like
Yeah, I was
diving
thinking
into your
that.
relationships, like hearing other people's opinions,
Mm,
nurturing something that isn't you. It might just mean need to be like stepping outside of that chakra for a moment.
mm,
For like underdeveloped, that means like really like shoring up the chakra and diving into the fire. But yeah, if you have too much fire, water is a good place to go, and earth is another good place to go.
mm. I like that.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
hmm
Yeah, it's funny, I don't like talk about that as much because like I don't see it as much. Like in
Mm,
the people that I work with, it's just
right.
um
Not seen. Yeah.
yeah, but
I
yeah.
just think back to like my corporate days and I saw a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it might mean like for people who bleed, like aligning your schedule more with that and with the moon than aligning it with like the 9 to 5. It might mean like a lot of letting go of like shame. Actually, this is like what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation is like the mom guilt. Like letting go of shame around like how you think things are supposed to be or how like culture has told you, how society has told you things are supposed to be, and really like
Mm,
just being okay with yourself. And that's in the solar plexus, right? Like I am
yeah.
enough. What I am doing is enough, and I'm going to let go of everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, we do hold like the shame on one hand and like anger on the other hand in that area. We hold guilt in the heart, which is where we're going
Where
next.
we're going next. So go for it.
Yeah, so next in like in the actual area of the heart, in the center of the chest is Anahata or the heart chakra, and it's green. It's associated with the element of air. We can think of a healthy heart chakra as like easy breezy. It's like a
Hmm.
beautiful soft breeze, light and flowy. And this is where we hold like really everything that culturally we associate with the heart. So it's love, love for ourselves, love for others. It's compassion, giving, service. It's associated not only with the heart, but with the hands. So it's like, what are you doing with your hands to serve?
Mm.
And when you're doing like energy work, you're letting the energy flow from the heart into the hands and you're giving that to someone else. So that's what I think of when I think of the heart. What I see a lot of times, especially with the people we work with, is just a lack of boundaries. So like they want to give, 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 but oftentimes it's too much in a way. Um, in that they're not allowing themselves to receive the same amount of
Right.
energy, so it becomes off balance. Or it's like allowing other people to kind of infiltrate the heart space in a way that's unhealthy. Or maybe it's even like codependency, like so we're like depending on other people's emotions to like fuel yours. Um, Over control sometimes it comes with. But like if it's healthy, you like love to give and you love to receive equally, you like know that you're of service to the world. You're able to forgive others and forgive yourself. Um, Oh, something to mention too is this is like the bridge. I think of this as the bridge between the more ethereal chakras and the more earthly chakras. So it's like the place
Hmm.
where the energies of earth and of spirit kind of alchemize, and we get to use our hearts in this way that really blends them both together very beautifully.
Yeah, I like that. And it what comes up for me with this chakra too is like passion as well.
Hmm.
Um, that's usually like how I associate with the heart chakra. And I do like realizing that this is like the bridge between, the upper and the lower chakras because like you have we'll get into this with the dharma stuff, but having the separation really allows you to see like where maybe your energy might need to be as well, I think.
Hmm.
When it comes to one the self or things that are coming from outside of you. So,
Yeah, for sure. I'll go back to the guilt. So this holds the guilt and the solar plexus holds more shame. Shame is like maybe a feeling that you're bad and you're wrong, and it's like who you
mm,
are. And guilt is more about like something that has happened or that you have done. So there might be things like self-guilt that we hold on to for a long time that needs to be forgiven. And we'll see that when we're reading chakras as something that needs to be healed. Usually it might even look like an entity or something like that that we can help heal and remove. Um, the heart is like a pretty comfortable space for me to be. And we can embody the heart through like acts of service, through giving
mm,
gifts, through like in yoga, anything that opens the heart.
yeah,
Um, and that actually brings me to, and I talk about this in my book, but like our daily habits and our culture have put us in a heart closed position, like in our bodies. So you'll see people's shoulders rounded over, their chin kind of forward or their neck forward. It's in this like protective
state. Yeah,
posture. Yeah.
yeah,
I've noticed like when I'm at my unhealthiest or have been at my unhealthiest, like when my eating disorder has been at peak, for instance, my shoulders are rounded over, I'm kind of hunched over, I'm like almost protecting like the chest and the heart area. But when I'm feeling more confident, it shows in my posture. And like, yeah, we are perpetually in our culture like hunched over and we're in like a spinal flexion position due to technology, due to driving. That's like really put us in this closed off position. And then I think of like us using technology and like getting angry at other people online, getting into a space of judgment, comparison. And it's like we fold into ourselves more and more and more. So a lot of times, like in a asana practice or yoga practice, we're working on opening that space up and like strengthening the back because like we're so chronically hunched over basically. So it's interesting to see like the correlation between like where we are culturally and like how that shows up in our actual physical bodies.
Yes. No, for sure. I get clients often that they'll lay on the table and their shoulders stay in this forward position. So
Mhm.
I am working that out, opening them up, and really like after a couple of times of me like opening up, like you just feel this like, or I can see just like this deep breath that comes in of really having that heart space open, being open and
Mhm.
ready to receive. So it really is a thing. Like we have to be mindful of how we're positioning ourselves. Do we have our laptops or computers in a position that's going to allow that? This is the mundane part of spirituality, right? Like
Mhm.
we have the jobs, right? We have the laptops, we have the technology, but in a way we have to like still be mindful of how is that affecting our bodies and even our spiritual practices. So
Yeah, well, that's why like embodied spirituality is so important. We can't leave the body out. It's part
mm,
of who we are. And as we work on the body, we can also work on the mind and spirit, but it's hard to just like change one of those pieces and for like the change that we're actually seeking to fully take place, to fully integrate within us. Um, I'll also say like judgment really lives in the heart. I think in the throat too, because that's where we voice it, whether it's judging ourselves or judging other people. So like ideally, like as as a society and culture, we'd love to get to a point where like we can all feel open-hearted, where we don't feel like we have to protect ourselves all the time, because we can meet each other with compassion and
mhm,
empathy
mhm.
rather than judgment. I think we have some of us are getting there. I think we, as a whole, we have a ways to go. And
Absolutely.
I'm certainly not like absolved from this feeling of like frustration and judgment of other people. Um, but yeah, the more we can put ourselves in other people's shoes, and the more that we can just hold space for like the light and the dark and all shades in between, and every single person, including ourselves, I think the more open this heart space is going to get. So I feel like I could just talk more and more about the heart, but I do want to keep going.
Yeah.
I will like refer people though to our conversation about the heart in our love and money episode with Ellie Pierpont. We were talking about like kind of bypassing the lower chakras and just being in the heart and how that can be
Mhm,
very unhealthy. But we will move on up to Vishuddha, the throat chakra, and it's blue. It's associated, so the top three are associated with ether, which is space, but different like factions of it. So the throat's associated with sound, the waves of sound that travel through the ethers
the
through space.
vibrations, yeah.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, they're each like kind of a different vibration. They're lighter than the other chakras because of this. And this holds communication. It holds like being able to listen and be able to speak. It holds truth. It holds integrity. It's truly like our voices. And man, oh man, a lot of us have a lot of work to do, including myself.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things too when you think about how we've grown up and the society we've grown up. I know for me, like growing up, I was taught not to speak. And not so much not speak all the time, but I was the child, right? I was a child, and what I said didn't really matter, especially when it came to like just like my own thoughts and ideas. And, I had to stay in my lane as a kid, right?
Hmm.
So it's very hard when you kind of come from that point of view, you're being shut down, to have an open throat. And I know I'm talking the sense of being able to speak in a way, but also to voice your opinion, to stand up for yourself, to really like have that knowing, that ability like to speak, to send out that vibration into the world. It's just very, very hard coming from a society we've come from. It, from in my opinion, I know not everyone has been brought up like me. So this, I feel like this is such a powerful chakra one in my life, being able to speak up and speak out for what I want. And even in relationships, like when I think about how I was in other relationships, I was so quiet. I just never spoke up for myself. I didn't feel like I could. And in turn, that like caused so many different things going on and the rest of my chakras. But just this chakra in itself is just like a game changer, really.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I'll add, oh, one, I forgot to say the heart chakra is yum, that's the sound, and hum
mm,
is for the throat. There is a lot of noise around us all the time. I think,
mm,
we both live in like pretty peaceful areas, but I'm talking about like societally as a whole. Whether or not you live in a quote unquote like noisy area, there's just a lot. There's social media, there's like there's 24-hour news cycle. Um, there's just a lot of opinions and voices that we're kind of being bombarded with at all times, or that we allow ourselves to be bombarded with. So a big part of this chakra is not only speaking, but it's about being able to actively listen, and it's about the ability to go inward.
mm,
So Pratyahara is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, and that's like drawing your senses inward. That's an important part of this chakra. So you can actually hear your own voice and your own truth, um, and then be able to speak to that. And like also be able to truly listen to somebody else without formulating your response the whole time, without going into judgment, without like just being like in your monkey mind. To be able to like draw inward, to quiet the senses, and to like truly take things in is such an important part of like this chakra being healthy. I think what you and I have mostly seen when we're looking at others and ourselves is the need to like speak up more and be in the
mm.
truth more, and to like really be unapologetically who you are. And yes, like some of that lives in the solar plexus for sure, but the ability to voice that and for
Waste
that to
it.
go from
Yeah.
the inside to the outside is done, through the throat chakra. So a lot of us have a lot of work to do, and honestly, some people could definitely stand to like wind it down a little bit, or to like it can be like really overinflated. The
Hmm.
people who just never stop talking, they're uncomfortable with silence. And some of us need more energy in the chakra. So lots of different practices. Active listening is good. Like your conversations can be a meditation if you truly are focused in on the other person, and then you're speaking, from your heart. Um, it can be singing, it can be humming. Breath work is great for both the heart, the lungs are in that area, and for the throat. There are different types of breath that like vibrate the throat. Chanting is beautiful. Listening to great music, listening to like enriching uh, podcasts or literature, reading. So really like giving and taking in information. Anything to add to that?
No, I just really like just that visual of giving and taking in. It really truly is. Like even when you think about our breath, we breathe in, our nose, but that's still kind of in the same area, and we
Mhm.
breathe out. And we do that all the time. So having this, chakra open in both ways is just really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I'll add one more thing is that I think with a lot of like the women and femmes that we see and work with, there's a witch wound. And that lives like one in the sacral. That's like where we hold our sense of sisterhood and relationship, and also through the throat. And by that I mean like it can be really scary to truly speak your truth in fear of your safety. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in different cultures, it's still very dangerous as a woman to speak your truth or to like be outside of the predominant religion. Um, and for many centuries in different cultures, women have like tattled on each other, like, oh, she's a witch, and have been like pressured to do so. So it can be very scary to use our voices. But I would encourage anyone who does have enough safety to do it, to keep speaking up, and not just for yourself, but for others who don't have that privilege just yet. We can help amplify the voices of others.
By using our own, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll move up to Ajna, the third eye, which is just between the eyebrows, and it's indigo or sometimes purple or violet. Its sound is Om. It's associated with light and time. And this is where we really hold like our manifestation, our envisioning, our like higher mental faculties, like our ability to discern, our wisdom. It's to me, it always feels like a very timeless space when I tap into it, like very ancient. Um, and this really holds like our ability to trust ourselves too, and to truly hear our highest self and our inner voice and discern
Mm-hmm.
that from like all the other
Everything else.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. What I see come up for a lot of people is this like unsureness or even inability to distinguish anxiety and fear from like intuition and inner voice. And really, for me, the distinction is that intuition and inner voice is calm, it's peaceful, it feels wise. Anxiety and fear don't feel that way. Um, and even when something is wrong and we're intuiting that, it still has a sense of like peace and calm about it and like assuredness, really. It's just, it can be quieter sometimes than everything else. I know we talked about in the yoga episode, like the mind being like that shaken up snow globe. So it can
Mm-hmm.
be really hard to like discern which snowflakes are intuition and which ones are like everything else. So we really do have to like let the mind settle to be in the space where we can truly hear it. Um, and we can improve this in different ways through like concentration practices and meditation, and improving that, by attending to it, hopefully on a daily basis, where we can increase our concentration. And like we were saying about the throat chakra, lots and lots of noise in our culture. Um, then there's lots and lots of noise in our mind. So it can be hard to like zero in on that space where we're able to like truly, truly hear. But I think, when we are able to balance all the other chakras, there's a power to it. And there's like so much power in this one. I think that ability to hear your inner voice and to trust it is like pretty much the most powerful thing you can do as a human, because then I don't want to say you always know what to do, but you always like have your true north.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, what this chakra brings up is one, like clarity,
Mhm.
right? And I started doing a practice when I during my meditation, because at first you're supposed to allow the thoughts to come through and to simply pass. And when you have so many, you're just like, okay. So finally, I decided, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to like see this thought for what it is. And why am I having this thought? And I think, kind of like getting to the root of that kind of brings clarity for me, and it allows me to like just let some things go. So for me, with my third eye, the intuition, it's really just about clarity, about like that knowing,
Mm.
and kind of like putting it all together.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah,
usually see this. Oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, I usually like when I tap into others' third eye areas, I usually see it as like a physical eye. I think I've shared that with you a few times. And like depending on the state of the eye, kind of like lets me know like how they are within this chakra. So
Mhm.
like that clarity, that ability to see.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I see it as an eye usually too, which is interesting. Different kinds though.
hmm
Uh, so I've noticed, so let's say like it needs more energy, it needs more fortification. There's usually like a cloud around it. There's like some sort of lack of self-trust.
hmm
There's this inability to like truly hone in on the inner voice. Um, when it's out of balance, someone might have a really, really strong third eye, but it's like their lower chakras aren't grounded enough. So they're almost like stuck in almost a different realm, it feels like, in such a way that it's really hard to relate. And it's hard for them to do like just normal mundane shit that we have to do as
yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm so glad that you're communing with this with aliens and stuff, but man, you still have to pay your bill. That's you got to feed yourself,
You gotta
like
like,
there's
yeah.
there's other things. So yeah, I'll see it like a bit overstimulated sometimes, and that can even present as like I don't want to diagnose any kind of mental illness or something like that, but it can feel very out of touch with reality. I'll put it that way. Um, so I think like when you're tapping into the power of that, super important to keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah, and I would also say too, like when you really start to, like you said, tap in and become aware, like hi Gemma. I I will physically feel tension or energy like in that space. I know sometimes when I do a lot of intuition work and readings and meditating, like I physically feel like almost mentally tired in that area. So I would definitely say not so much proceed with caution, but just know that these things do have very physical manifestations as well.
I agree. I'll also just add this little tidbit. This is from Nikki Novo, but like she's not all about the third eye when it comes to intuition and like being in doing intuition work. Like, yes, the third eye is a very important part of it, but coming from the heart and tapping into the heart is super important. To me, when I see third eyes, they don't have any agenda, which is great. They're really like objective. Um, but when we are looking at somebody else's energy or our own energy, we do need to come from gratitude and compassion
hmm
and that very like beautiful human part of ourselves, to do it in a way that's of service. So like alchemizing those two energies, I think are really important.
For sure.
Shall we move up?
Yeah.
Last one for today is Sahasrara, the crown chakra at the very top of the head. Um, there are different systems that say the sound in different ways. A silent om is what I've been taught. So I'll like meditate on om, but without voicing it. Did I say om for the third eye? It's om for the third eye.
Yeah,
Okay.
you said it.
And again, this is associated with ether or like space or spirit. But yeah, with divinity, with source energy, with cosmic consciousness. And that's the energy that it holds. It's our connection to the divine. I usually see it like kind of opening up and like white or some sort of light like pouring through and into the system, flooding down into
hmm
the other chakras. And now this is our ability to surrender, uh, to have faith, to like self-realize, like to realize who we are, which is divine embodied.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say if it's out of balance, it can feel very like we feel like we're separate from everyone and everything. It's isolating, it's lonely, it's depressing. I'd say like it can't totally be overly open, only in that like, and you'll talk about the Dharma system. If you like feel like you're receiving too much information, it can feel overwhelming. Um, but also I'd say kind of like the third eye, you just still want to make sure your other chakras are rolling so that they can hold what the
All
divine
of
is
that.
bringing
Yeah,
in.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's like if you're truly in a state of, we talked about samadhi in our yoga episode, it could be very hard to like make sure you're fed and that like you're wearing like a coat when you go outside. I don't know, just like really simple things. So just remembering your humanity, remembering your divinity, and like allowing for both within yourself, I think is like the healthy way to hold this. Obviously, like some people, I think also like knowing that if the divine is within you, it's also within everyone else. That's very important to remember. You're
Yes.
not God, you're a piece of the
Of the whole.
divine, and so is
Yes.
everybody. Um, that would be like a way that it could be out of balance as well. What comes up for you with this? Like, what's your relationship with your crown?
Yeah. So, I mean, you pretty much said everything, but I realized like when I um, really sat with this chakra and realized that I am just a simple part and this is my connection to the bigger, aspect of everything. Like it just there was a peace almost for me in a way. But no, you definitely said everything and touched on everything with the crown chakra. Like it also reminds me of like when I receive ideas or different different downloads, like just knowing that there is just this source, this well that I am infinitely tapped into and always tapped into. And we all are. And it's like there's something just so beautiful knowing that we have access to all of these things and we are all connected, to each other within this way. So, yeah, that's all I
Yeah,
have to really say about the crown. Like
yeah,
it's such a vast chakra, but
yeah. It's beautiful.
mm-hmm.
Um, So those are the seven chakras in that system, and we wanted to talk about those, but also briefly touch on the Dharma chakra system, which is something downloaded by Sahara Rose, something we learned in the Dharma Coaching Institute, and it's something that for me it was a new way to look at the chakras after working with them for a long time, and it's something I know Rashida's very skilled at and into, like supporting people through this process. So would you mind just going through the chakras like from crown to root and letting us know like how that relates to manifesting dharma, your dharma?
Yeah. So when you think of Dharma, a lot of people, think of this like thing or this thing that you're supposed to do. But when you like really sit with your purpose, it doesn't have to be a job, right? I think we've touched on that plenty of times. But you can, really think about your Dharma and as it relates to the chakras, you can really like pull it through in this way. And so the first one is like our crown, like our crown chakra. And when you're like not really sure of what it is you came here to do, what is your gift to the world that you're supposed to bring, like you really should be tapped into like opening yourself up to this like divine source that we talked about with the crown, like really being open to receiving. Like your physical form is just the vessel for receiving this particular, I'll say thing, but it's just so much bigger than the thing. But to bring it down to scale, right? This idea. So that is the crown, like really be open to receiving a download from source, from your highest self, just allowing yourself to allow whatever is coming through. And you might think it's crazy, you're stupid, but just allowing, surrendering, like Lauren said, it will allow you to bring that through. And then when we move into the third eye phase, it's about like what you're thinking about. You get this idea, right? You get this like whiff of something and you're just like, okay, what does that even mean? It's that clarity piece. So it really means that you should focus on using your intuition and finding like that clarity around this thought, this idea, this way you want to show up into this world. So that's the third eye phase. And then we come into the throat phase. And so how many times, Lauren, have you had like some idea and you're like, oh, this is great. But then when you go to talk about it, you're like, what? What am I even like saying? Right? How can I like convey like this big idea that I have? So
Yeah.
that's like your throat chakra phase. Like this is where you are putting words, the ideas, and not even just talking about it physically, but like putting it on paper, sharing it with your friends in some type of way. Like in whatever way, like even like I said, writing is a way of using this like throat chakra phase as it relates to your dharma. It's just like bringing it through. We talked about that internal. The throat is like really bringing that message and bringing that idea, bringing it to the physical plane. Is that phase. And you're really activating that throat chakra in that way. And so when you are looking at your dharma and as it relates to the heart chakra phase, you want to like, you have this idea. And so many of us, we get all of these ideas, right? And we might even like speak on them. We might even like bring them through the throat chakra phase. But then we just kind of like let it fizzle, right? We just like kind of lose something about it. Like we loved it, we liked it, but you need to have like this passion around it. And that for me with the Dharma and the heart chakra is really like having that passion, that like fire around this vision that you've had. And that's why it's like really important in the other three phases to like really be open and to really like get some clarity around that. Because if you're a little bit confused, you're not really sure around your why with it and all the things, how can you have that passion for it?
Mhm.
So having that passion around it is the your vision is that heart chakra phase.
Yeah, and that's
And
who
then
you're
we
serving to, right?
and
Like
it's
that's
who
like it's like
hmm
bringing into your heart like who you're serving. So like if you start to lose steam, you come back to the heart, like
you can come back to
who's
the
going to
heart.
benefit from this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's honestly like how that passion gets built as
Mhm.
well. Like really connecting it, into your why.
Yes.
Okay, so then we move into the solar plexus phase. So you want to really when it comes to this phase, it's like I know we talked about the fire before, but this is like really your confidence and your courage. A lot of times when we have ideas or thoughts and we like speak them maybe too soon to not the right people, um, we tend to get responses that we don't like. And it kind of like touches on that confidence aspect. We really had like this idea. We really knew that this was like a good thing. Like this is going to be amazing. And then you tell a friend that you're going to do this thing and they're like, so many other people are doing that, or that's not going to work, or whatever the case may be. And they can be coming out of a place of love, right? But that's why it's really important that when you do activate that throat chakra space, tapping into the heart, finding out who you're serving, you may get some resistance, but this is really about taking that pause and finding that confidence and courage to even like take the next step into what you're trying to bring through.
Yeah. It's also like the drive to take action. So we can have
Hmm.
the idea and talk about it and like have the passion, but how many ideas like never become a
Yeah,
thing
absolutely.
because like they fizzle out?
And they fizzle out so fast. And that's,
Right.
really like that is really like the importance of that heart phase
Mhm.
too. Um and like you said, yeah, the solar plexus, like the action oriented, the doing.
Mhm.
If you can connect to your heart, you can connect to your passion. You're gonna have that fire within the solar plexus to just get out and do it anyway. Lauren, and I'll share this with you. I had a couple of people say, "You're gonna be a coach? Like, what does that even mean?" Like everyone's coaching. Oh, you're just gonna be another life coach. Okay. And when I heard that, it like hurt a little bit in a way, and it really like made me second guess. But when you know, like, you know.
Mm,
Okay, and so we're going to move into the sacral area. And so the sacral chakra phase, you are like really just trying to, this is when you, so as it relates to your dharma, like you've already brought your dharma through and you are like, you know how sometimes you do something for a while and it just kind of gets a bit monotonous, so to speak?
mhm.
Yeah, so this sacral area, this phase as it relates to Dharma, you're really trying to like find more abundance and pleasure and creativity within your work. You are going to do this and, look at how your Dharma, your purpose is just helping you out overall in life and how like your dharma is allowing you to channel all these things, bringing all this creativity and all this pleasure within yourself in your life, because like I said, your dharma is not just your job, it is like who you are, it's what you're doing, it's what you're giving to the world and what you're receiving from the world. And if it's just a job, like like yes, in a way, like your job can bring you like the pleasure, but it's not like integrated within you. So like really that was what the sacral chakra phase is just like bringing in that pleasure and that creativity and the abundance from what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll add that like if you're feeling burnt out, even if it's your dharma, like usually going back up to the heart, remembering your
Hmm.
why, and going down to the sacral and adding in some like juicy fun and receiving.
Yeah,
Those can be the
absolutely.
antidote.
Absolutely. And then we come into the root. And this is really like, as it relates to the Dharma chakra system, is really like birthing your dharma into a movement that is something larger than you. It is allowing you to ground and anchor more people to your vision and then opening yourself up for the next phase. Because, like I said, your dharma is not your job, it's just a part of you. And we all know we change, we go through cycles, we grow, we want to do new things. And so, this phase is really about like, how can I let others in on this and allow them to utilize this for the sake of humanity? Because it's more than just us. What we bring into this world is more than just us. And we should be doing things that kind of like spread little seeds around for others to benefit from as well.
Yeah. And there are so many ways like to do this, I think. And, for you and I just doing this podcast, is one way to do that because we're giving information to other people,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully
Mm-hmm.
inspiring them so that they can take it and use it in their own way in their own lives. And it's such a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm really, as you could tell, really passionate about this. Just even like the structure and the framework of like the chakra system. Like it's an amazing tool, I feel like, in so many different aspects. So yeah, I really feel like if you can tap into, the chakras, like you're elevating your life in some way. And like you said, you don't have to believe in it, but look at it as a tool, a structure, a way for you to
Mhm.
like, be in balance in your life.
Yeah, self-inquiry, self-love, even like really going through, and that's really what my book is about, going through each one and like loving on yourself and letting it be fully expressed and be what it is. Um, so Rashida is working on a really cool program as far as the Dharma Chakra system goes. So we will talk about that really soon,
Yes.
as soon as it's ready to be birthed. And I want to tell you all about my program that just came out yesterday, and it's an online course called the 7-Day Chakra Makeover. And I put a lot of everything Rashida was just talking about, a lot of that energy into this course, and now it's being birthed out into the world. But it's a really, like, we've had a long conversation about the chakras. That is not what this course is. It's actually really short, digestible content. So
Hmm.
every day, there's 7 days, we go through a different chakra. There's a short lesson that talks about like what it is, how to connect with it, when it's out of balance, in balance. We take a moment to like put our hands on it and chant and really tune in. And I give you some sort of like assignment for that day to go out and actually embody it. It also comes with a printable reflection journal. So there are a couple questions each day that will help you tune into the chakra and see where it is. So you'll journal on that. And then I have a 10-minute embodiment, like yoga-based practice for each chakra as well. So every day it's about 30 concentrated minutes of quote unquote work to like tune into and balance that area. And then, of course, we go from root to crown. I call it a glow up from root to crown because truly it just gives you that chance to like reassess and balance each one. If you are very familiar with this concept, you're still going to get a lot out of it. The chakras can go in and out of balance, I'll say fairly easily. Like
Mm.
Rashida read mine this past weekend and she's read them before and she's like, whoa, that was different. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a mess. Help me. So regular energy hygiene is really important. If you're a very beginner and this is all new to you and we are blowing your mind right now, this is still going to be very accessible and digestible. You can have a lot of yoga experience or no yoga experience. It doesn't matter. This is truly for everybody. It's beautifully done, if I must say so myself. It's just super easy to access. You have lifetime access on Teachable, and it comes with all kinds of great stuff. And if you are a yoga teacher, you actually get 4 Yoga Alliance CEUs or continuing education credits for this course as well.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I was happy to be able to provide that bit of value as well. So it's $111, but for our listeners, you can get it for 77 with the code Bestie, Bestie, and you can use that code forever. And I would love for you to take the course, and then you can revisit Rashida here pretty soon to like really utilize the chakras for bringing your dharma through. So I'd love for you to try out the course. Let me know what you think. And I'm just so excited to put this out in this world. I've been teaching on the chakras for years. So to have it in this like digital format that you can return to over and over again is such a dream of mine. I'm so happy to have it out there in the world in this way now that's really, really accessible. So I hope that you enjoy it. And yeah, let me know what you think.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I love that. And I
Yeah.
got a sneak peek and it's beautiful, y'all. Like, really, definitely check this out. It's beautifully done. So thank you, Lauren, for all your wisdom. I really appreciate you breaking the chakras down for us in a way that comes with wisdom because I know I'm stepping into it at only a few years and I just love like your insight that you have around it and like the really applied knowledge that you have around the chakra system. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for your insights. And I think it's always good to have like wise eyes and fresh eyes on a
Mhm.
subject. But you have been working with this for a while. And the thing about the chakras is, and I say this in the course, yes, there's all this like information that we can learn about it, but it's truly about what you feel and embody and intuit. So you're going to get a lot out of like experiencing them for yourselves, more so than like reading something out of a book, or both have value, let's say. So Rashida's wisdom that she's gained in the last like 3 or 4 years is just as valuable as somebody who's been studying them for decades because she's getting this like firsthand experience with them. And that's how they've evolved and changed over time too, is what we've downloaded and what we've intuited and what we've felt. And by we, I mean like collectively over time. So, uh, in the course, I talk about some fun things like foods and crystals and stuff like that that are associated with them. But truly, it's like what resonates and what works
Yeah.
for you. So it's very empowering, not like something to submit to. I think this
Yes.
knowledge is empowering because if you know how to work with your own energy, you can really like balance yourself and be in an aligned state and like know what's happening. Because like I know for me, how many times have I just been like, oh my God, what is wrong with me right now?
Yes.
I can go
Well,
into the chakras
and
and
really like,
know.
mhm.
Yeah. And then if I know how to meditate on them, to like embody them, how to work with them, then I know how to like bring myself into an aligned state. And like how amazing is that? To like,
No, I think it really is amazing. I didn't tell you this, Lauren, and I'll share it right now because it applies. I was at a free parenting class that Maciana's preschool was having, and the lady that was there was talking about all these different like techniques and things, and she started talking about like the energy centers, and she went through them. And she's like, yeah, I had Reiki done and this and that. And, the parents were like really interested.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really amazing. And I was like, you don't always need to have someone to balance yourself. You can balance yourself as well. And it just opened up the floor to like talk about it. So it was really cool. And I love, like, that's what I love about your course so much, because it's a really putting that knowledge and giving you the power to like, do that self care on your own with your energy.
Well, that is so cool that they're talking about that at her school and that it's becoming like this common knowledge because it is so empowering. And I think this is the new paradigm of the world, really, but like in spirituality is like,
Mhm.
if I make you as a student or client dependent on me forever, like I have not done my job. It's all about like being a steward for this information and empowering others with it. Um, and I think like hopefully that's the world that we're moving into, where we're not submitting to uh, human authorities or to gurus. It's all about like, realizing who we are, realizing who everyone is,
Mhm.
and seeing yourself as your highest power, but also like everyone as a teacher.
Absolutely, not putting someone else in the place of authority than yourself,
Yeah.
or others. I feel that. And even like the scarcity or lack,
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people want to hold on to because there's not enough, right? But
Yeah.
there's so much, and like there's so much knowledge, and there's so many different ways to go about doing things. That's what I love about the time that we're in. And this can be a whole nother conversation. But just because it doesn't look a certain way, or just because someone is doing it, doesn't mean that you're going to do it the same way. That is the
Mhm.
thing about your purpose, the thing about your
Yeah.
dharma. Like, you can do the title, it could be the same title. Like, I can be a coach, right? But I am not going to give the same energy or do it the same way that anyone else before me has come. And that is like the important thing about, your dharma as well. Like, you
Mhm.
can quote unquote do the same thing that someone else is doing, but it's not going to be the same. It's not. And I will get into that with this thing that I'm creating, but I'm going to leave that alone. But I just felt like I had to say that.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, and clearly, like I talked about the history, I did not invent the chakras, but I'm teaching on them, right? And I'm passing on the information. And maybe there are people out there who need to hear it from me for some reason or another,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
even though many people teach on them, right? But I think like it being, let's say packaged in this particular way is like very cool and new. And I'm really excited to see like how this potent but really accessible work reaches people. So
Absolutely.
thank you everybody for listening. We love these like teaching episodes where we get to go off on the things that excite us. We hope you feel our excitement and feel it too. And if there's anything you want to learn about or just want us to discuss, let us know. Reach out to our email or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to learn about my course, go to the show notes. All the info is there. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Bye, bestie.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible episode. If you loved it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell all your besties about us.
You can also connect with us on Instagram at Your Spiritual Besties Podcast. And be sure to say hello and share your thoughts about the episode. Love you, bestie. Talk soon.